Best Dell laptops. ChatGPT. Best monitors. Asus ROG Azoth review. How to delete a page in Word in 3 easy steps. RTX 4080 vs RTX 4070 Ti. Best Mac apps. AMD vs Intel. Recall an email in Outlook. Home computing news. iMac 27-inch, everything we know about Apple's larger, more powerful iMac. By Alex Blake. June 26, 2023. When Apple killed off the iMac Pro and then completely removed the 27-inch iMac from its online store, we thought that was the end of the road for the larger all-in-one computer. Right now, Apple only sells one size of iMac, the smaller 24-inch version. But what about that gaping hole in the iMac lineup previously occupied by the 27-inch model? It could be that Apple decides to leave this device dead and buried and instead hopes that the Mac Studio and Studio Display scratch that itch. That's certainly what sources at 9to5Mac have contended. But there are tantalizing clues that Apple is considering offering a larger iMac with a greater level of performance than the 24-inch iMac. Regardless of whether this is branded an iMac Pro or an iMac, here's everything we know about the next high-end all-in-one from Apple. At its peak performance event in March 2022, Apple unveiled an all-new Mac Studio and accompanying Studio Display. It also revealed that the Mac Pro was the last Mac yet to make the transition to Apple Silicon. For all intents and purposes, that seemed to be the death knell for the future of larger iMacs. That's probably true for the iMac Pro, at least. As this was always a separate product line from the standard iMac, Apple's announcement would seem to confirm that the iMac Pro will not get a new release date anytime soon. It doesn't necessarily hold true for the iMac, though. Since the 24-inch iMac already comes with an Apple Silicon chip, it leaves open the possibility of a new 27-inch iMac, equipped with Apple Silicon, coming out while still conforming to Apple's statement that the Mac Pro was the only Mac waiting to make the transition to the Apple Silicon chip. And there's another clue. On its website, Apple lists the 24-inch iMac as iMac 24. If it was going to be the only size option in the iMac family, it seems likely Apple would just call it iMac, as there would be no need for a differentiator. The inclusion of the measurements in the name could be read as an implication that there is another size on the way. If that's correct, when could we see the larger iMac make a splash? Reliable Apple analyst Ming-Chi Kuo has pinned the high-end iMac's release date on 2023. Adding to that impression is well-known Apple journalist Mark Gurman. In early July 2022, Gurman explained in his newsletter that he expected the larger iMac to come with the option of M3 Pro or M3 Max chips. In June 2023, Gurman added more detail, explaining that the outsized iMac could arrive in late 2023 or early 2024. In Apple's lingo, early 2024 could be as late as May. Interestingly, MacRumors claims Apple has tested multiple iterations of a souped-up iMac, including an Apple Silicon version housed inside the Intel 27-inch iMac's chassis, a scaled-up version of the 24-inch iMac, and a high-end edition with an XDR display, M1 Max chip, and black finish. However, none of these came to pass, perhaps owing to global supply chain issues. If true, though, it adds weight to the idea that Apple is pouring resources into a new iMac, and hopefully, that means it isn't far from launch. We can get some clues on the potential price by looking at Apple's other desktop offerings. The 24-inch iMac currently starts at $1,299. On the other hand, the Mac Studio and Studio Display combined begin at $3,598. That means there's a huge gap of over $2,000 in the lineup. At $1,599, the Studio Display alone costs more than the 24-inch iMac. So if Apple were to relaunch a 27-inch iMac, we'd expect it to have a price close to the $1,799 it had before it was discontinued. That starting price could creep up to $1,999, as the MacBook Pro line saw a similar jump when the 14-inch MacBook Pro came out. Either way, it'll fill a gap in the pricing spectrum for Apple. When Apple redesigned the iMac in April 2021, it brought back the classic, colorful look of the iMac G3 from 1998. The new iMac is kitted out in a range of snazzy colors, from pinks to yellows to blues, giving it a playful vibe that Apple hopes will make it down-to-earth and approachable, just like its G3 inspiration. Will the high-end iMac get the same treatment? That likely depends on how Apple positions it. If, as expected, it's simply branded as a larger version of the 24-inch iMac, then bright colors are all but guaranteed. It would simply be an extension of the existing model, so maintaining the color continuity would make sense. If, on the other hand, Apple brings back the iMac Pro nomenclature, then the colors are out. Apple's Pro devices usually come in muted, professional colors like gray and silver. A Pro-grade machine clad in bright pink or yellow shades would likely feel out of place. However, given Apple's statement on how many devices are yet to make the switch to Apple's silicon, we don't consider iMac Pro branding to be likely. A colorful outlook was not the only makeover the iMac got in April 2021, it was also made radically thinner. Will this slimline design remain with the larger iMac? We think there is a good chance. Given how efficient Apple silicon chips are and how little space the SoC takes up compared to a system that uses discrete GPU and memory modules, it's possible the larger iMac will not need to beef up to accommodate it. The only question is how powerful the chips inside the